I think the pandemic and just COVID and being even more so for writers who are traditionally sitting, in the room away from everything and everyone. It's really been difficult to reach out.
In the room, 52 Jokers Wild.
Welcome everybody to In the Room with Garvin and George. And this week we have Francesca Romana Nider. Is that right? Is that how you pronounce your surname?
It is, but it could be Nider or Nider.
Nider or Nider.
Oh, she's off. Oh, God Almighty, she's off.
There we go.
This is going to be a battle of the wits. This is going to be a battle of the wits. We're going to be looking for innuendos in every second
absolutely.
sentence.
Well, actually, one of the things I think was quite interesting is that we'd noticed that you were a writer, producer, and we were getting concerned about basically
the frailty
of the creatives. But you actually mentioned that you're coming from the other side. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
Well, I come from the other side, but not in the creative business at all, in the sense that I originally, in fact, I'm a nutritionist. Several decades ago, got into the business side of that. So I worked in corporate marketing for quite a long time, got into business development, and all of a sudden realized there's something missing here. I feel like I need something inside. And I trained as an actress, and then I came to the UK from Italy. I'm originally Italian. And, well, I guess
I'm going to jump in, Francesca, because I was going to say George is going to have no place in this show whatsoever today, because I have, in you started off the conversation of corporate, God forbid, corporate sales and business development. Oh God, and then and I don't like any of that. And corporate sales, business development, and marketing, and I became an actress. And now I'm moving. And the brilliant thing is, I was an accountant. Sales and profitability. No interest in any of that. Want to get into the film business. Want to find the passion.
He was originally an actress as well. I mean, an actor.
I think we're going to be kindred spirits.
Absolutely.
I think we're going. We feel we were in, what that said was, we feel we were in the wrong business. So we're moving into the right business now. And it's not that we want to make money. We want to be in business, in the film business, but with the business of film. Because if we don't make profits and we're only making losses, we're not going to be in there too long. And that's the sort of game that we're playing. We wanted to. I was having a little preamble with yourself just before this, going, what was our background? Why are we doing what we're currently doing with all these shows? What people looking in going, what's that all about? What's that? What we're saying is, it's the language of marketing. It's a bit of our branding. We're saying hello to the industry. We're getting them used to the idea that we're here and we're chatting to our peers. But like yourself, we see each other and our peers, those that are in business, in the film business, and we want to be like them, and we want to, aspire to do more. And actually, the strange thing is, as an accountant, that statement alone is, we've got to go off and create jobs in this area. That's what this is about. To create content is to create jobs, wrap around it, and make it happen, and manifest creativity into a film or something. But that's all about job creation, paydays, investors, customers that want to watch something at the end.
Indeed. And that's also my job. Apparently the content is the most important part of the whole industry, but I have to say it's really a bit demoralizing, and there's a bit of disillusion going on here, because I suppose it's very difficult to be noticed by the right person at the right time with the right content. And
no, the great thing there is, I'm jumping in again, because when we started talking to people, and including ourselves, who's the right person, when's the right time, what's the right content, who's the market, and most of the people we were talking to didn't know who their story was for, didn't know who they were looking to for as an investor, because even the statement of this is £1 million budget, or this is a £4 million budget, or £10 million budget, changes who the target audience is of investor, of co-producer, of end market in terms of 100 million customers versus 10 to get payback. So the strange thing is the story never changed. It just was, what is the story? Who's your first customer if you're coming from trying to pitch a script?
The reader, unfortunately, or fortunately, again.
But do you even know who that sounds more like a commission something if it's a reader?
No, but it is, I think the writers have it's a hard, I mean, I have produced a couple of my shorts and acted in them, and it has been a hell of a steep learning curve, especially when you live in the North York Moors National Park. Because it's kind of.
I heard about those bunny rabbits now. They seem to have vampire teeth out that neck of the woods.
But my main thing is writing, and that's what I want to make the money with. In the sense of that's what I'd like to be able to call my career. But it's tough. It's tough for everybody. But getting that out there, knowing who you're contacting. There are a lot of people between me and who I would like it to go to eventually, or who I'd like to see it eventually. But it just seems like it's all a big dream.
The roadblocks.
To find the small building blocks of who is the right person and who.
And are you finding that you're being forced into a certain direction to meet their needs? Are you getting to choose the genres that you'd like to write, or are those genres basically being imposed upon you so that you can get your films recognized?
I have to say, as a writer for now, because I actually haven't been commissioned, so I'm writing on spec right now. It's the luxury of, I can play with whatever I want. So for now, no. That said, last year I placed second in the Euroscript competition with Rabbit Skin, and I had a meeting with the literary agent, which was great. I didn't know I was getting that. But, it's one of those things where they say, write as much as you can as anything to show that you're a producible writer. And that in a way starts to become, maybe you start doing something, or as you say, get pushed into or directed or focused into something that you maybe wouldn't naturally choose. Actually, the game, isn't it? I mean, I might have something I really want to say, but if nobody wants to listen to it, I can write.
Well, again, we've coined a phrase on our journey: scripts and drawers. And we're going, there's an awful lot of people wrote the uncommissioned script, the passion projects, the stories, they wrote them 9 drafts in, 7 drafts in, but effectively they're a script in a drawer unless someone asked for it or commissioned it, and they don't even know it's in the drawer, and they don't even know what it is, because they're unaware of the genre, unaware of the budget, because the people we're talking about as the first pass is investors willing to invest in it. What are they looking for? Am I looking for horror genre? So therefore, if it's not a horror in the drawer, it stays in the drawer. Is it? I'm willing to spend $1 million, not 5. If that was a 4.5 million, budget written script, you're going, stays in the drawer. It's the problem here is you said you could be a jobber. If you want to write, you could be a jobber and be in script development for TV, and you just get onto their profile or panel and you're writing episodes of EastEnders or something. But I mean, if you want to write your films and get your passion projects out there, then I suppose it's like Stephanie and like Sean, in the sense of you got to start turning into a production company by stealth, start plugging in the other gaps, move from writer to producer, co-director, and start looking to raise funding, because no one's going to do it for individuals in isolation of commissioning and asking for it themselves. So what our journey is to figure out, how do we get people out of the drawer? How do we get to see the value of what's in the drawer and see if there's a Blair Witch hidden in there or a J.K. Rowling in disguise? Because he just couldn't get to number 5 in the queue of a script play pitch. It doesn't mean that the actual expertise is not there, or the quality or the breakthrough script is not there. The problem most of the time we're finding is no one knows it's there. No one knows how to see it. And because of the amount of YouTube this and social media that, it's nearly blindly impossible to be heard or seen.
Yeah. And but that's just the truth of it. There are thousands and thousands of submissions. And if you put out a call to find the next, script that is going to be an Oscar winner, good luck trying to get through the 10,000 submissions you're going to get. And I think it's a really difficult. That's just.
And actually, there's the interesting thing. You've hit the nail on the head, and that's the conversation we've had in the last number of weeks with a number of different production companies. We're saying, if we say we want, as you said, we're willing to finance a script to a tune of £500,000 or £1 million, the queue will be out the door. The number of scripts will be, all qualities will be thrown at you, and you literally will be overwhelmed even trying to figure out what it is you're looking at. And it'll start being bills in terms of cost, because in time, we have a bunch of scripts coming in this week, and I have my daughter reading them because she likes particular subjects. And I'm going, and you're saying, just to read them and have an opinion, not even know what it is, takes time and money. And immediately someone is asking someone else to invest their time and money in them, even if it's a nothing, to say this is rubbish or good. So so what we're finding is if you want to invest in yourself, you've got to invest further now to take yourself out of the drawer and go deeper into this journey. And you touched on it earlier on. How do I market myself? How do I get seen and heard so I can even talk about a script to somebody that might be the right person? Because everybody is reinventing the wheel every day of the week, because all these doors and blocks are there, we think, and no one knows what the right steps are. And we get disheartened, as you said, along the way. And
I think one of the issues that I know I came across quite a few years ago, and you've done a Rain Dance course, and I know I've done a couple of their shorter courses as well, was that basically most scripts end up in a slush pile that basically just end up being, and at some point somebody might pick it up. And the other problem is, if in the first few pages you don't grab the attention of that particular writer and reader, but the reader tends to be someone that's recently out of college because they are on sufficiently low enough wage, like you're using your daughter, Garvin, who's 18, to read through those scripts.
Unpaid.
Unpaid. And
the thing is,
interning. I'm paying your college fees.
That's it. That's true. There's a big investment going on there. And that's where you're having to then appeal to a very young, possibly mature person who hasn't had any life experiences, so doesn't maybe realize what's going on within the story in those first few pages. And I think that becomes a big issue because you're literally pitching to someone that could be, in my case, a third of my age. And how do you connect to someone like that if you're trying to write, which I think is a big difficulty. Amazon, when they started to pitch for their movies, they had people basically putting scripts up, and if they had a big audience following, those ones would get selected. And it didn't necessarily mean the script was any good, because I read some of them and they were terrible scripts. I mean, is this your experience as well, or how have you found it?
Well, I, like many writers, I think there's the avenue of submitting to competitions, and that's where you come across readers more readily, because of course there's a ton of submissions. And again, it's a numbers. You might get lucky and that one reader really loves your stuff, relates to it. Most of the time they don't. And I think that the most value is in this, sadly, but also positive.
I beg your pardon. In this, sadly, you're going. Actually, get back a sentence here. Get back a sentence. The weird thing is, the first part of that sentence was on the nail. We have an audience, or we'll have an audience. We'll generate it for you. We'll introduce you to them. We let them know you have a script. So actually, this is the value.
No, I mean, I think the thing that has worked the most, and I think it's true in life, is build connections with people.
That's it.
Films are made around connecting with people, and if something resonates with someone, they're going to care about it more than if you're just pitching to
and that you just actually
looks great on
a
the
sentence,
TV, but they don't really care, and it's just what they have to do for the job. So
your story has to become our story or their story. That's the whole point, because it's not the story itself. That's just the film when it's made. It's the story of the making of going on a journey of the network of who you're making it with, who's starring in the roles, where is it taking place, when are we doing this project, what will it take to take it out of the drawer, what are these missing pieces? And most of the answers there lie with other people, lie out of the silos of where most people are operating, and lie outside, like Francesca, actually another, Frederica Murphy is another woman we had on our show, and she's a motivational speaker, and she said, it's outside your comfort zone. All the answers, unfortunately, to bring us to the next level are not in our comfort zone, they're in someone else's. Yeah. So we've got to start connecting these silos to each other and go, this is my go-to team. These are, and that's what we're finding from the last number of shows. They're going, they have already made the relationships of, well, John's my cameraman, Mary's my deal, or my sound deal, director of sound, or whatever. They want to work with this team, because what they're saying is, I want to work with this team. If we get the money, here's who we're paying, because we've gone through the pain together. We can go through the gain together. We're aligned in ethos nearly.
Sometimes that works. Sometimes that doesn't work. One of the things there's a couple of comments there that I kind of feel need to be emphasized, because sometimes when you're working on the no budget kind of films, you're being offered that you'll get the next job. And then quite often when they get the funds, you don't. And you're finding is because you're the go-to person that doesn't need to be paid anything. And that's one area that can be a bit of a problem. The other thing is that you're talking about sort of connecting to other people that are like-minded with you need the energy. And if there's one person in there that is putting out any kind of negativity in any form or fashion, that can actually bring the whole show down. So you need to make sure that everybody's working and showing the same kind of enthusiasm towards the project. And that is crucial, because I know on one of the projects that we did, we had somebody that came along and there was a negativity, and we had to say to them, thanks very much for your time. We really appreciate it, but we don't feel that you're fit for the job.
Important.
You know,
learning to say no, or you know, make clear what your path is. And if someone, you know, if you just don't get along, you don't, sticking it out, hoping that it's going to be okay in the end.
Actually,
doesn't work. But, you know, I think the pandemic and just COVID, and being even more so for writers who are traditionally sitting, you know, in the room away from everything and everyone, it's really been difficult to reach out, even just, my God, even just to friends and family, but, you know, even more so to industry. I mean, I came off really good meetings in Berlin last year. Yes. That was my last trip, probably 2020 February. Yeah. And then you worry about, okay, if I follow up, has this person become sick? Have they lost someone? Is there a tragedy that's much bigger than my stupid script or whatever I'm trying, you know? And it became really like you start retreating, and I think I'm finding it really difficult to kind of get into it's a bit overwhelming. All of a sudden you're like, to go out.
I think you're like me. You're an overthinker. I'm going to, actually, I'm an if I call myself an if then person. If this happens, that happens. If that, and if the other. Scenario analysis is another accountancy language. You're going, if then that, then the other. You're going, it doesn't matter. You're going to, I think these people say we're worrying about a future that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You know, in the sense of we're getting anxiety about, you know, scenarios that could may or may have different probabilities of happening. More than likely, none of it exists. So we're back to, like, if we engage with that person, we can be cognizant of the fact other things are going on, but we don't need to bring it on, and we don't need to take it on. You know, so I mean, the one part of the sentence you were saying was, you have to reach out. And actually, the mere fact of reaching out, you're now a voice, and you're touching another person, and you're able to go give them some emotional support, or otherwise, even if it's just to let them know you're thinking about them or you're aware they exist. Because we have the day job and we have a life, and most of the time they don't cross over or mix. But at the center of everything, and another one of the things that myself and George are very cognizant of, the fact is we're going back out into industry, but this time we got to like it. We got to be ourselves. Yeah. We're going to work with those that get who we are. If they don't get it, just work away. We're not for you.
It takes time, though.
But now we haven't got this, and that's the thing. Yeah. The time is now the most valuable thing. Always was the most valuable thing. We're just more aware of it now, going, we're not going to give you a second, third, and fourth chances. We haven't got time. This is it. Take us as we are. We can make friends and influence people. We can go on journeys together. You're reaching out. You know, as I said, one of the little IMs you wrote back to me was, you know, what have I got to offer? And that's actually the gas thing is every single person we were talking to said something similar.
Yeah.
Immediately, the imposter syndrome stepped in, and we're going, "No, you're the expert. You're the MA in film. You've got 3 shorts. You're winning awards. You're out there. You're doing it. I'm talking about it. You're doing it. So you're the mentor to me. You're actually the reason I'm stepping out of the room." George has been he's so far out of the room for so many years. He doesn't need to step out of it. I have to get him to step back into it.
Well, actually, there's some interesting things there, because as someone that mainly has been an editor, although I've been a lecturer as well in media production and creative medias, what I found is that the pandemic actually got me talking to more people in this environment. Because I was able to talk to and get to meet more people.
If he can get a word in edgeways from me.
That is true. The one thing I have noticed is networking online on Zoom is much better, because usually you're all in a room. You can't hear anything after 5 minutes because everybody's talking and like, what?
Yes.
So actually networking and if you get into this kind of virtual room.
Zoom etiquette, as they say.
Zoom etiquette, yes.
I have to say, you get more of someone's attention, which I suppose is worth the effort of reaching out. And they say it's been a good time to write to to send your script, ask if people want to read, because they have nothing else to do. But
I don't think they have the same. A script reader has the same amount of work they had before to read. What's happening is now they've 600 scripts coming into them where they are only one. They haven't changed, and they've the one ask. And actually, this is back to the interesting thing you just said there, was because myself and George were going, what's the need? The need, we're finding the weakness is a little bit more on from script to pitch to investment. So it's not that a story is not a great story. There's nothing, it needs to be packaged further in this, to grab the attention. And it's not for a reader. The reader might even be a second pass. You're going, this needs to be grabbing, this is an investment. What every pitch in my language is that script is an investment. If it doesn't treat itself as an investment, or have the partners in the organization to understand it's an investment looking for money to be made to pay for jobs, then it has less chance of success, because it's not readily packaged to be understood, to communicate the message it's communicating is this has an audience of. Actually, I think the thing that George was talking about earlier on, we noticed on your profile, let's say one of the stories was LGBT, such and such. And that's it's more, what I recognize that to be is the various screen skills in Ireland and England actually trying to adjust gender imbalance and diversity. And an awful lot of the calls going out currently are going, please write scripts of shorts with this, subject matter, and I'm going, that to me is 3% of the world population, now has 97% of the market is possibly not the target market, which makes it more difficult for that investment to get a target audience. In some ways. Now, it could be a very defined target audience on the flip side and go, it's a niche engaged market that if you did break through, you've a ready and willing audience that wants more of this content to consume. So there is two sides the same kind, but there's marketing language, investment language, and story language, and they have to align in my books.
What's your experience of that?
Way to make films, unless you have your own endless resources, which nobody has. I certainly don't.
Mark Zuckerberg does, and Jeff Bezos. They've endless resources.
Yes, indeed. I mean, it's one of those things where actually, as a writer, I want to be in a team and I want to collaborate, because that's
there we have it. You're stepping out of the silo. You're bringing the A game. I'm the script. I'm the writer. I'm the script editor. This is where I want to be. My skills to heavily be in those IMDb credits. I need the other team. I got to get my go-to team.
Mostly, I need good feedback and people who are honest about whether this, what works and doesn't work in a story, because that's most of the aha moments come from someone else either not liking what you said and wrote, or coming at it from a completely different angle.
Oh, that's interesting. You're saying, am I hearing that right? You don't want yes, men or women or anywhere in between. You want no in the sense of, but critique in the sense of critical. It's not, because if everyone says yes, you learn nothing. Yeah,
basically. But also, I mean, I know writers or creatives, but who never share their work, and that's it's not going to work. in the end.
Well, if you go back to episode, I don't know which episode it is, George. It's 90 episodes. I'm lost track of the fucking things. But in there, I mentioned my sister, who's an artist, and there's about 50. I own most of her paintings. I got them as Christmas presents, birthday presents. I bought them. I don't know if it's the word. I'm not her muse. No, not the muse. I'm her benefactor. I'm actually definitely not her muse, come to think of it. But what it is there's 50 paintings that she is moved on from my red period to my blue to my yellow to my green over 40 years. Nobody on this planet other than me has seen them. No one knows how good or bad they are, and she's ashamed of each level before. Not ashamed, she feels that no longer represents her working style now. And I'm going, there is an audience for everyone. There's a market for everyone. The letting go was the most difficult part for the artist, to let someone else own it, let someone else consume it. Even pricing it is near impossible with some artists I know. They won't we had a meeting earlier on today, and it says the writer was going, I need to be the writer. It's my story, but now I need to direct as well. I need to write. And this journey of ownership within a investment vehicle can actually, probably cause other conflicts and stop things happening.
The writing of a script doesn't stop at the actual text part. It continues right through to the editing part and in the actual editing of a film. So as an editor, I've learned writing through editing programs together, and that's a collaborative process with a director or a producer or some other people where you're constantly testing what you're doing. And the first thing you have to get used to as an editor is not to take personal criticism from what's being said, because it's not about you. It's about the shape of the film that you have in front of you. It's the process. And I think a lot of writers would actually enjoy that process as well, because it's a written word version of the film that will eventually become. So you can start to work out where you can pull things down one end of the timeline to the other as a story, if you're looking at it as a piece of linear text.
And that's one of the things I learned on a small scale, producing and co-producing the two shorts. God, I have learned that what I write on the page better be able to be put on screen pretty easily, because
No, I watched your short. I was swiping left and right all over the place there last night. You go, no, very, very excellent. It got my attention. I like the humor. I see how it won the little prize and it got you. It was your hello and got you in, I believe, in the sense of it was your stepping stone onto the path to then decide to go a little bit deeper and further.
I had a great time. It got me hooked. And also because I come from marketing, that's quite an advertisement. It's an advertising piece, really. It's like a product. It really is pushing a little. It was for the.
Now I gotta stop you right there and go. The strange thing is, because myself and George talked about this earlier about other things. Like
I do actually.
My father was a paint and decorator, but he didn't paint and decorate his own house. You were taught. You come from a marketing background. The product is now you. You've got to market you first, then market your product of script. And that's why you touched on we have all these tools. We don't have a clue about the social media. The breakthrough, if we can break through the algorithms of the YouTubes and the Twitters but you have to learn all these new jobs and jobs with no budget, and the budget is time and money and you in the absence of someone else doing it. These are the things that aren't being done. It's the business of you first. Means you've got to be doing your own marketing of yourself.
There is a difficulty in that process, because if you start to listen to the so-called gurus, this week they're telling you one thing, in 2 weeks' time they discover something else, and they've suddenly realized that they've been down the wrong path, and now they're telling everybody something different. So the process is changing so rapidly that nobody can get a proper handle on it. And I think you end up having to go back to the original way of marketing to try and get some kind of traction in what you're doing, because some of the digital stuff at times doesn't make sense and almost seems to be
you can't go for the masses. You've got to go for it.
Also,
you got to go for the juggler.
I'm of an age where I really want to do what speaks to me and write about what is important to me. And I know that it resonates with some people. And that, I think, is something I don't want to compromise too much, again, because of my...
So you found your passion project.
I'm not, I've made some choices, and they've had hard consequences. And that's part of what I like to write about, what choices make us face, and the fact that you choose one thing, you can no longer have the other, and all the part that is so wonderful and so excruciating about choice and freedom of choice in a human being. And I like stories to have a meaning, and I want to add to the conversations where people feel something and can identify. And so,
actually, no, that's all brilliant. I'm actually, what I'm hearing is, I'm hearing this, what we just said. I'm going, I am me, hear me roar. You're not going to compromise anymore. This is the passion. This is the journey. This is my time. This is my life. Take me for who I am. And that's the person I'm going into the industry to be. I'm going, I might be 6'6". I might be loud. I might not be aware I'm insulting or not. If you're insulted, I'm not for you. If you get by that, I'm just being honest and speaking from the heart, or like I'm wearing my heart on the sleeve, then you're getting you're getting me. These are my thoughts. This is how I function. If you get by that, you get the friend, you get the relationship, you get the partnership, you get the journey. So you've got strong friends. The ones that stayed were meant to be there. The ones that went were never meant for you. What doesn't pass you, what's for you won't pass you by, as they say. So I actually do think you've said it all there. You don't need to compromise. You're going, this is what I love. This is what I like. I don't need to compromise. I'm writing what I know best. And I know there's an audience that represents me in the world. And by definition, I am targeted and aligned to them. Now I just have to package myself so they can understand where we are and communicate and purchase or consume. So that's what this machine of social media really is. It's not the mass market. It's in marketing language, can we write the niche boutique? Can we find our audience, tailor to them, and start communicating?
I think that's one of the reasons why. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we ended up doing what we're currently doing, is because when in our early days when we were doing this, one of the things that I was starting to talk about was that I wanted a voice, because I felt up to a certain point I hadn't had the voice. I was always servicing the system, and even as an editor, you were trying to find the voice of the director. But there actually comes a point where you realize that you have something to give and you want to give that out, and that becomes very important. And that's a very crucial part, I think, of everybody's story, that they be allowed to become themselves, to tell their particular stories the way they particularly want to. And I think that becomes a crucial part of the journey.
Yes, I think for writers, however much I like the idea of not compromising, it's just the first stepping stone, the script, and you do, the end product is such a collaborative result that I cannot, selfishly hold on to what my vision is, because it's bound to not happen. I'm not a writer director, and I think that's why people become writer directors, because they want to be able to, direct the film that they write and have their vision. And that wasn't my choice. But it is difficult to, it's a really hard, it's like feedback or anything. It's hard to stick to what you believe and what you think it has value, but also take on board what has value and what I should be taking on board. It's very difficult to juggle, and that's true always. But as a writer, I think you really have to accept that you're going to write something that is going to have many, many permutations, because whoever it resonates with will have their input.
One of the things that I think that's quite interesting, and because you're becoming the producer or attempting to be the producer for those projects, that one of the things I think you need to be looking for is a director who, not being focused on just the way that they think, but that, because as an editor, what I was doing was trying to get inside the mind of the director. And I think that's part of what the director should be doing, is getting inside the mind of the writer, so that they can then envisage the writer's vision, if that makes sense, because there should be a possibility of having that kind of collaboration where you align yourself with someone that has similar sort of views. Yes, there may be little bits of compromises, but at least if you can work with them, that they become a partner, a true partner, in the sense that they are aligning themselves to your vision within the text that you wrote? Because without that, they actually can't direct either. It is just an interpretation from the director's perspective.
Ideally, yes. I mean, that's why I guess that's why it takes time to find the right match. But like for these two projects, especially my first feature, I really, really I would like to be a producer in that project because it's very close to me, and but I know that might be not, it might be unrealistic because of how things work, starting from finance and who, depending who you attach, depending who gets interested in the script. And there has been interest, and I've almost gotten it over the hill, and it's had recognition, and it's doing well, but it needs more work. And again,
and what type of work does it need, in the sense that what is it it's just about broke through, it just got over the mark, something pushed it? No, it could have been a pandemic, it could have been, so there's an awful lot of external uncontrollable factors. But if you thought there was one thing that would have just pushed it over the line, what was missing that could have pushed it over the line?
I think I do need to go back to the writing. The difficulty there is that you have conversations. Sometimes you have access to people that you really want to have the conversation with. And sometimes you have access to people that aren't quite the right people, and they could take it on if you do something different with your project. And that's where you get stuck. Or my experience is, do I follow what their lead is because they have a vision and I'm the writer and they're the director and they're asking me for something in particular? Or do I hold on to what I want it to be like and keep searching for the right?
Now, back in business language 101, the 80-20 rule of minimum viable product, you're going, at what point do you have to let go and go? Yeah. You can't go to draft 7, then 8, then 9, and 9 years later it's still there because life moves on. It's someone's interested. There's a couple of things we can tweak. I can do the next one. I need to get it over the line. I need to get my name out there. So the power moves to me for the next one, in that sense. So it's like it might be, it's not a 2 million budget, it's a $500,000 budget. Maybe it's a C-list or not an A-list, or the story at core might stay the same. A couple of CGI bits and costumes have to drop out. It could be better, but it doesn't need to be perfect. It could be the person that's listening, as you said, is Steven Spielberg keeps on pushing you away, but it's second and third in command's going, I'm here. I'm willing. I don't have his money, but if we can do this, I can make it work. So the weird thing is, we had another saying earlier on from another girl going, it's like my baby, but I have to let it go to let it grow. If I keep the baby in, then okay, it's going to be safe. But safe ships in harbor they're not built for that. They're meant to be at sea. So it's like I think what's happening here is you've got a script. You believe in the story. It's close to your heart. Your job now is to turn off the writer and turn on the marketeer and business development part of you and get it out there and let it grow.
I kind of wonder if that, I know what Garvin's talking about because I know he's looked at the stuff that we've been doing ourselves, but I'm kind of getting a sense from what you're saying that maybe what's happening is the directors are taking the core story in a direction that isn't really where it was intended to be. Would that be right? Or what's the difficulty that you're finding?
I think what happens is we're all human beings and we have our own experiences and journeys, and some elements will resonate with, for example, this director, but they'll have their own take on it, and therefore to make it really feel like their own, they need it to be slightly different or very different. And that, it's about chemistry meetings, chemistry conversations.
Was that, no, I'm just going to jump back in again and go, was it possibly to change? No, we don't, because we're talking very ambiguous here. Was the changes that the person in question was trying to commercialize it more, so it have a farther reach, attract different investors, as opposed to it was, we could take a niche concept and try and make it more commercial, so a different set of actors and a different market audience can be opened up by just flipping it a little bit to the side? Or is it that this is a core story, it's my story, therefore it could actually be better off in a book and stay in that sort of alignment because its audience is a different audience, if that makes sense? Do you think he was trying to commercialize it or take control of it?
No, I don't think so, because it's not that type of script, and the end result, I think it's still there for me. One of the issues that I'm trying to tackle within myself is that because I write from what is true for me and my experiences, and they become very dear to me or very close to me. And so I think one of my tasks is to try and put more distance between what I write and myself.
You have to become multi-schizophrenic. You're like the rest of us.
There you go.
You have to go.
You have to be more creative in the sense that, sometimes you've got to let go of certain things. And sometimes that means, because of course I want, to be writing my speech for God knows what acceptance, but maybe that project isn't the time now. And I have to go on and move to something else that is maybe more commercial and where I can make my name. And then someone will say, oh, look, she also has something else that's in her drawer.
Well, actually, the gas thing is you're now actually honestly saying to the world of 3 customers that we have, you've already come to all these conclusions. You've already passed this through yourself numerous times. You already know the answer. And in my opinion, the answer is already yes, you already know it. You have the story. The story is there. The job is done. It's 80-20. It's the minimum viable product. You can do extra drafts and iterations. It won't change much. It'll just get a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
The journey now is out of the drawer. You got to find a team. You've got to find people that are now to make them interested in it. If you can't find them, it doesn't end there. You might park it. You might start a second one and go back and revert. But the journey of making them happen is the journey of branding the business of you and the products that you represent.
I've been in a situation where we were saying before, I have a film that I shot 12 years ago and I have edited it, and then I've had problems. But in the middle of it, my dad died, and I lost. It became one of those kind of projects that every time I went to look at it, my stomach almost turned. And it's nothing that was wrong with the project. It's just that I couldn't get the energies mustered up. And in the last literally 5 weeks, I've now been able to reapproach that film from a totally different perspective. I'm re-editing it, and it now seems to be the right time because all the special effects I wanted to do, I can now do on my own home computer using a games engine. And I'm suddenly kind of going, that technology wasn't there, and it was what I was looking for. And I've had to, but by letting it just sit for a while, for a good long time, and make sure it's now opened itself up as another possibility now, 12 years later. So there are, sometimes things, they work well to a certain point, and then you just have to let them sit, and then another door will open to allow that to go through at that later time. I think those things do happen. And in the meantime, I think I've written another 3 or 4 scripts and we've done nearly 100 podcasts and edited those as well. So there are other things that happen that could, that by parking that, it could give you the opportunity to do something else that will get you to the next step, and then you can bring that back in when you're in that position to maybe direct it yourself. And I know you said you weren't a director, but I think there is the vision. If you've had the vision to write something, if you have the right team around you, you have the potential to produce that into a film as well, because they would be the ones that support your vision as the director, because all a director is someone that's interpreting the text. And they need the collaboration of the cinematographer, sound, and all actors and everybody else around them. And all those people are then working to that person's vision. So maybe you are the director, and you've just got to get your mindset to that point where you can be the director to do that project the way you want it to be.
Who knows? For now, I mean, interestingly, you mentioned that your dad died, because that's also what happened to me a few years back. And that script is very linked to my family history, because both my parents were refugee children. And so I understand. I mean, that's it. Part of me kind of goes, oh, when I think of having to go back and do another draft.
Yeah.
And but that's my job. I need to overcome that or work through it so that those things don't get in the way, but enrich the kind of writing that I can produce. And I do need to be someone who people go to because they know that I can write and that I can write reliably. And those are all my, that's my journey. That's where a lot of writers are. I think, you write something, you really like it, and it's hard to, kill your darlings, as they say. And sometimes I have to create a horror film, which I never thought, I would write, to kind of get all that out and go to the extremes that horror offers to explore things that are.
Yeah, but you never thought you would, but now you have.
I know.
Is it good? Has it opened up you? This over here has armed you to naturally flow into this other space of going, the answer might just lie one iteration to the side. You become, as you say in Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, you go, I have a wish list for myself. I'd love to be on Shark Tank or Dragon's Den. I want to be on this side of the chair pitching that I get some investment, and I want to be so successful afterwards that a couple of years later I'm on the opposite side giving back. So wouldn't that be great? And if I can't do it, I'll write the film that I'm starring in that actually says I did it. So because we can take control of that power. So you just said you can actually write your own script that gives you your own reward in the script that then actually might self-fulfill and get an award. But that's the power you have as writer, as creator. So the weird thing is you've got the horror writer in you now is you're starting to move to the commercial ask. The 9 out of 10 winner that's out there with the Stephen Fellows of the world going, what wins in genre is science fiction, horror, and a mix thereof. You're turning to the business of film. So you can write for it. The other one isn't in demand currently. You're naturally moving into the business side of yourself. That's what I see is happening there. Yeah, so that will afford you to then do the passion project. You can invest back in yourself. You can get your own team together. You can be successful in business, raise the finance, and do it. Because that's all that's really happening is, can you attract the money to make your dream and passion come true? But that's the journey. It has to be someone else's as well. So the game is the team, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, we've actually, believe it or not, probably reached the hour point now. So if we should probably bring this to a close, which I think has been a really good sort of chat. What we've actually managed to cover in this episode is some of the concepts of becoming a writer in this current world and trying to pitch your wares to the readers, who quite often could be, in many cases, quite a lot younger than ourselves, and they're the kind of target audience. But we've also talked about being passionate about your own project, about your the things that you're writing about, being true to yourself and telling the story that you want. But there's also the difficulty that we all have when we have to try and compromise, that are we giving too much away? Are we releasing or letting off too much that we don't want to? And if so, do we need to park the project that we've been working with and work something out through another project and then come back to the other one at a later time? And I think those are really important issues that we all have to address as we go through in our lives. So at this point, what I normally like to do is just offer our guest a chance to say a few words that might help our audience in their future, possibly as writers, producers, directors. Anything you'd like to give as words of wisdom that might help them?
Gosh, it's going to sound cliche, but
we love cliches.
Oh yeah. Well, just write what you want to write. Really kind of go where it's hard but real. At least that's the kind of film I like to watch. Where there's a meaning that is very central to being a human being, and so I like, hopefully, to write that. So whatever you're curious about and whatever you're passionate about, make that what you write about.
Excellent. Any last words, Garvin?
All I heard was, be true, be you.
Brilliant.
Go do.
That's nice.
There you go.
Well, everybody, thanks very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thanks for joining us
Thanks
this week.
a lot, Francesca.
Bye for now.
Thank
All
you.
the best. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.